Hi everyone, this is Marilyn with KK's Quilt Studio. Hey, won't you join me on my journey of learning about my new Bernina Q-24 and Q-Matic robotic software? I am an art and stitch instructor, and I design and create with art and stitch, and it works with Q-Matic, the robotics for my Q-24. So I am going to tell you a story about a vintage quilt that I found with an ice cream cone border. You might say, well, what do you mean ice cream? Well, if you take a look here at the pictures, you'll notice the border of this quilt has these little triangular shapes that look like ice cream cones. And this is a vintage quilt that I found. I bought it from a lady in California. I just fell in love with it the minute I saw it. It's a beautiful top, and it looks like it was finished, pressed, and put away and forgotten about for all these years. And I thought, I just have to have it. I need to get that top finished for that quilter. She, I'm sure, had intentions of um, making a beautiful quilt for a lucky recipient, or maybe for herself. Who knows? And it's sad. So many of these vintage quilts never got finished, but their creators did such a beautiful job with them. And I've kind of taken upon myself that this is my purpose in life, is to rescue all these tops and finish them. And I was so inspired with the open area between the plates. I thought, oh, this is this has got to have something special, not an ordinary edge to edge. This quilt has to have some kind of custom set design. So I thought, with my new Bernina Q-24 and the Q-Matic system and art and stitch, I was going to create some beautiful designs for this quilt, and hopefully something that would really accentuate it. So I started looking around the internet, trying to find some inspiration for some design. So, I looked on Facebook, and I looked on Pinterest, and looked on Instagram, and nope. Um, Everything I saw with similar borders uh, were pretty vanilla, pretty uninspiring. They may go around the edges, the standard stitch in the ditch or quarter inch away, but nothing that really stood out and said, "Hey, this is a beautiful quilt." So I'm gonna machine quilt it. I'm not gonna hand quilt it. So I'm looking to do something extraordinary. So my staff and I, that's those voices in my head, got together, and we started um, taking some pictures and bringing them into art and stitch as a backdrop, and doing some doodling. So I got some designs from quilting files that were in systems that I already had. And then I started making some designs up, and I drew some flowers for that border. And then, kind of as a nod to that quarter inch away boundary stitch in the ditch, I created sort of a triangular shape for the white triangle areas, the non-print sections, and added a few pearls or circles, bubbles, whatever you want to call them. And I'm going to be repeating that throughout the design. Then I loaded the Dresden plates, and let's see what we can do with them. Well, I wanted to quilt in each blade. I knew that that's going to be a little bit of a trick, but we'll get that done. But again, designed, repeated those pearls again, and then put little hearts because I just thought that added a very feminine touch. This is a very feminine quilt. The design again in the center is another purchase design. So we have the borders, we have the Dresden plate. Now let's move on to that open real estate between the plates. Again, just kind of doodled. Did this on my iPad and kind of sketched out, oh, maybe I want some cross hatching with a ring of circles and maybe some feathers on the outside. Wasn't quite sure. So I just kept thinking about it, and my staff and I talked about it, and this was my final choice. I thought, okay, I want to do feathers, so I did a swirling feather spray kind of design, and again I selected a center of feathers, and that's from Irina Bloom. So that one I already had, but I created the feather spray then on the outside, and that would fill in the space in between each of the plates. So next it was time to get the quilt loaded up, and I'm going to work on that top border. So I need it a little bit closer to me. I'm sort of vertically challenged. I'm not that tall, so reaching across, I didn't want to bump the bars, the belly bar of the machine, or move the top out of alignment after I got it aligned. I loaded up the backing and the batting, and I ran a straight basting stitch, a plumb line if you will, across the top of the quilt, and then I lined my quilt top, the scallop portions of the ice cream cone border, bumped that up, and then I basted down the cones, and I just ran a straight line from cone to cone. I didn't do a scalloped edge. I kept it straight. I just wanted it into position, and so it wouldn't be moving around with me. And I thought that's that is plenty secure. Then, of course, when I set my safe area, it's not very tall, but that's okay. My safe area isn't very large, but all I'm going to be doing to start off is working on that top border, and then down the sides a few blades. So we were good, and the safe area can always be reset. You'll notice I use the red snapper system, so I need to move my machine to the side whenever I advance the quilt, because there's not much space in between the dead bar and the machine. So when I advance, I just move the machine to the side where I don't have the red snappers, and then my leaders slide right under that dead bar. So if anybody has any questions about that, I love the red snapper system. It gets me loaded up real quick and ready to start on a project. So I used the markers, and I wasn't quite sure about how things were going to look. I knew I liked this design, but I just set up a few to get started with. So if you look for that little pin in your toolbox of your Q-Matic software, that's where you're going to drop those little markers, the little red uh, boxes, if you will, on the key areas. So I'm um, marking the triangular points and then the top of the ice cream cone just to get my first few flowers. So I did 3 flowers and 3 little triangles for the first spot. I kind of wanted to see what it looked like before I did a whole row and then say, I think I made a mistake, and then have all that to rip out. Well, I thought it looked good. I was pleased with it. I had some slight hesitation though, because it was hard to see the flowers in the printed cones. And I thought, well, maybe I should have left the cones as they were. But I am working in bright light, and I thought, nope, I really want flowers in those cones. I want it all to be quilted. So I pressed on. I proceeded with the rest of the top border. So I marked the rest of the triangles and scallops, and you'll see I move my Quilting Designs. Each of those triangles is a separate design, and you'll see that the flowers are each separate quilting pieces. So they have a green start and a red stop point, and then they all need to be rotated and nudged into position. So this one I have selected, and I'm going to be nudging him into, you'll see these lines. I've drawn lines to connect my markers, and I'll be talking about that in subsequent videos as we press along. But that's how I line them up, is I use those lines to give me an outline of the shape of my border. Now, the quilt is beautiful. It looks lovely. There's nothing to criticize the quilter. It's just fabric is fluid and it moves, and we aren't perfect. So the best thing we can do is make the quilting accent and hide the any small imperfections in a quilt. And that's why we're custom setting this. We're taking the time to make it beautiful and put things right in the positions that they should be. And here I'm setting up a sewing sequence. So this time I'm setting my flowers. So if you see, I've selected the little key with this is the icon. It's a 1, 2, 3 with squares. And if you hit the little blue information button, it'll change to text, and you'll see that this is the sew options button, and that sets the sewing sequence. So I'll DQ all the pieces and parts that I have selected on the work table, and then hit the select button, and from there I can click 1, 2, 3, and so forth, and select the 10 designs that I want to sew next. Now, you might say, well, I notice you're sewing from right to left. Shouldn't you be sewing left to right? Well, I'm a lefty, I'm a southpaw, and my computer is on the right side of my frame, and I usually quilt closest up to my computer rather than running back and forth to the left side of the frame. I know we all need steps, but our machines sew up, down, left, right, all directions. So there's no reason why you can't sew right to left or left to right, whatever floats your boat. So this is how I did it. They are individual designs, so they will sew, it'll sew the first tulip and then move to the little daisy next. So here is the next screen. I've pushed the play button, and this screen here, the start, will appear on your computer screen or at your sewing head, and will ask you if you want to quilt at the start point or somewhere, if you have your machine somewhere else, if you want to quilt closest to where your machine is. I want to start at the start, and so it will prompt me to pull up my thread. So the tie-offs are your choice, whether you want to pull up threads and tie your own knots and then bury threads, or if you want the machine to bury threads. That's your choice here in between sewing out each of these flower designs, is to choose those tie-offs. So it will, like I said, it will begin to sew and give you prompts when it's finished sewing before it moves to the next design. And if you can look real close, you'll see the jump stitches between each of these designs where it's going to do the tie-offs and then move to the next design. And so here I finished with the top borders. I did some side lighting, and you'll see that yes, the flowers show up and look so much better, and I was so very pleased that I had chosen to go ahead and quilt the little ice cream cones with the flowers. The little shadows made me feel much better about that. So I'm going to take you on a journey of finishing this quilt and how I did all the custom setups. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to pop a comment down below this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click that little bell so that you get notifications for when I post more videos. I will be posting more videos, and hopefully if you're new to Q-Matic or just haven't learned all the bells and whistles, join me and come explore with me as I go through finishing this quilt and how I set up all the custom designs and use the tools that Q-Matic has. I'm so pleased with my system, and I hope that I can get you as excited as I am about my Bernina Q-24. So until I see you next time, I wish you happy quilting.